Guys, thanks very much for spending some time with us this morning. And look, in a packed schedule at Refresh, it's great that we could actually just have a chance to chat to you two.
Yes.
So what are the typical strains that you see ministry couples dealing with? You've obviously had a lot of experience in this. In the first few years particularly, what sort of strains are people sort of dealing with?
I think they feel overwhelmed. We see such enthusiasm and such a passion for what they're doing and a gung-ho approach, don't we? Which is great. That's what you need, and God's using that. But it's just so much to do and so many things to think about. And I've seen that a lot, and I saw that with Scott when he did his own business, because as a one-man band, it's crazy, isn't it?
Is it like that? Like setting up a whole business, starting ministry?
Oh, and more. Because in a business you don't have to worry too much about the personal dynamics. Where in ministry, you've got to be working with the people, you've got to be pastoring them, you've got to be caring for them. Where, in a business, you can just get the whip out and make things happen. But so you've got a lot of people who might be really theologically qualified and really on the ball with the gospel and what they want to preach to people and what they want as an outcome, but they haven't really had a training in building a structure, like building a business. If you come from a business background, then you've had some sort of experience, or you've had some models that you've sort of worked under. Whereas if you sort of come from being a church member to suddenly running a church, which has to have structures and governance and meetings, and there's a whole bunch of stuff you don't know. And so it's very daunting for a new person coming in to sort of go, where do I start?
What can the outcome be? What is the pressure like on the marriage, and what might it do?
Well, I think from the fella's perspective, the minister's perspective, firstly, if you don't start with the right structure and the right organisation, you can build paradigms and expectations in the church that are then really hard to undo. So that can create a whole bunch of stresses, because he's trying to learn on the job, but then trying to backpedal from some of the structural mistakes, which creates a lot of pressure on the poor guy trying to do this, which he then, of course, brings home.
I don't know the answer to this what do I bring home question, because there's that sense of a lot of girls want to know. They want to be on the inner world. They don't want to feel this separateness between their husbands, and they're trying to support them, and it's a real team thing. But there's also a sense where a guy's got to realise how much he can burden his wife with on top of whatever else she's doing. So I know that's a question I don't have the answer to, because each woman is different. And it might be a stress for them not to know, but there might be a time where they go, look, you can know this much, and really it's not like in the secular world a husband comes home and tells you every little detail of every day. So we've got to learn to go, that's enough, I can cope, as long as I feel connected to you and I understand what your stresses are. Because if you hide too much in a couple, then I think you're doing well, so I'll just add a few more things.
That kind of raises a question for me, because so basically then, so long as the marriage is still together, you must have got the balance right?
No. I mean, we're all good at putting on faces, aren't we? So, look, I just feel a strong together marriage is going to be the best foundation, in the sense of, apart from your own salvation and all the rest of it, to get a church going well. So just surviving isn't good enough for me. I think that the marriage needs to be handling well the stresses and thriving within the relationship. And then God can do amazing things. Like a great marriage can free you to do a lot if you feel the support from each other. But, when the outcome isn't good, drains you.
Yeah, and I think the reason why we're husband and wife is for a purpose, so that we can support each other. And if the marriage is going well, like if it's coping with the stress and it's prepared for it and there's good communication between you, then that helps to bear the burden and bear the load jointly. Whereas if you've got the marriage that's surviving but not actually flourishing, then you're taking all of the marriage stress into the ministry as well. So instead of the minister going to work feeling fresh and coming home feeling drained, and so he gets pumped up again, he's actually going into the church going, I just don't have much left. And so I think that really impacts how the how the couple survives and how they perform as ministry couples.
Listen, I didn't actually prep you for this question, but it just occurs to me now. Do you think that many people actually just tell themselves, well, I guess this is what marriage is like. You're going to be tired, you're going to be run down. Do you think people have actually settled to some degree and thought that this is the way it should be?
I don't know that they consciously have those thoughts. Maybe some do. But I just think we start with all the, we're going to be different. Our marriage will be, we're just so, no one's been like us. And the realities do hit us. But then it's just a matter of working at it daily. And we all say we've got to work at our marriage, but nobody really knows what that means. They go, oh, yeah, of course we've got to work at our marriage. And then it's so airy-fairy, what's it mean? So your question, do we just settle? Not happily. Most of us have that niggly, there's got to be something better than this, or we can try,
Yeah. But I think our marriages are an image of Christ in the church. And I think it's good when they're healthy and flourishing. If they're not, then that's an implication that we're not a real God-honouring, God-glorifying witness to the world.
Except, be careful, sometimes the struggles of marriage and the way we rub each other and the way we've got to work on that, that's good for our sanctification. Like, there's no other person who's really going to help me get sanctified than someone I'm living in 24/7.
That's been my major role, is helping her to become more sanctified with all the trials that I've given her.
True.
Well, listen, you've been talking about working at marriage and working towards that witness that you're suggesting, Scott. One of the things we're at actually is obviously the Refresh weekend. Have you seen that? You've been at Refresh, every Refresh weekend.
Yeah, right from the beginning, yeah.
And have you seen this sort of therapy, if you like, this sort of way of supporting couples bear fruit over the years?
Yeah, within the older ones as well as the younger ones. So it's not like as soon as you hit 20 years married, you've got it all sorted. So we've seen some growth in the older couples as well as ourselves. It's good to hear what you're preaching and live by it yourself. But the younger ones, I think they lap it up, don't they? They love this conference. This is the one conference. What was it, that couple this morning or yesterday?
Well, there was one of the couples, two of them at our meal table, and we said, so you look forward to Refresh? And they go, it's the first event that goes in the calendar. As soon as we actually goes in one day short of a year. So as soon as we come back from the last Refresh, it's booked in next year. And she said it's the one thing that keeps us sane. So it's a good thing. But I think also, I don't think there's any other conference like Refresh, because it's not a case of where you're going to learn about ministry and you're going to learn about how to plant a church. It's a special one that's just there to just put to give input into the couple. So there's some good theological messages, there's some good time out where they can relax. There's great marriage talks that we give them that give them something to think about and help them to sort of step out of their world and just rebuild themselves and become refreshed. It's a good conference.
I know you donate towards the conference itself. You've been lecturing here for many years now. So is that why? Basically, you're saying that this is actually something that really every ministry couple should have a look at, the idea of pouring back into their relationship?
Absolutely, because I think if you don't take time to refresh, and even in your own relationship, your own marriage, it helps you to step out and just stop thinking about the church 24/7, to work on your relationship and how you then approach ministry. Then that means you can then think more clearly about your ministry. Plus, there's a great lot of networking, because you can't stop church planters talking about churches anyway. And so you get these guys that are very similar stages of church, and you get husbands and wives sitting across the table together, but they're not just talking about ministry strategies, they're talking about how are they coping.
Yeah.
And I think that's gold. It's really gold.
I think that the very first early days, we did have that sense of we had to get the culture of Refresh going, because as soon as you got all the guys in one room, they wanted to talk church, and the girls were like, what are we here for? So they chat along. But it wasn't about the couple, and we had to keep pushing. This is about the couple.
it wasn't easy to change the culture. So you get some of the leaders, they'd say, well, let's have a finance talk and we'll talk about church budgets. And we go, no, stop it. It's not what we're here for. So we're going to talk finances, we're going to talk couple finances. We're not going to talk about church finances.
And that's why we give ourselves to this, because we just really feel passionate about godly marriages that glorify Christ, that help the church thrive. And we just feel really privileged because, as we say, there's nothing else like this that we know of. For other ministers, I think they all need it. But to see the blossoming of the new churches, the churches that are going somewhere where no one else is at the moment doing a great work to help into those marriages, that's exciting for us. So and we just feel like, where else would you be? Like, what a great time.
And I think the proof is to see how strongly the wives are on board.
Yeah.
You've never seen so many women that are in ministry that are just so wired and excited instead of feeling drained and just
another thing on the calendar.
Another burden for the minister, and another, they feel that they're actually part of it. They feel that they're part of this whole community, and they just get really excited. So it really pumps the girls up too.
Well, guys, thank you very much for your contribution, and thanks for chatting to us this morning. And I don't doubt that actually anybody who has anything to do with Refresh will agree with everything you said.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.